Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 52 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation F.E.R.A.L. We begin this segment on Rainbow Monkey Island, where we see the delightful children from down the lane exiting a cave, and they're holding a tablet. Apparently, this tablet has a code on it, and the delightful children are monologuing to themselves about how this code will help them achieve something that they greatly desire. Suddenly, the Sector V operatives of the Kids Next Door arrive, and they demand that the delightful children hand over the tablet. Instead, the delightful children activate a trap which sends the Sector V operatives into a pit, and then the delightful children retreat into their dragonfly-shaped vehicle in order to escape. The trap, however, merely slows down the Sector V operatives rather than outright stop them, and Number 4 tries to aim a 2x4 technology weapon towards the delightful children, but Number 3 stops him because she thinks that there is a risk of the tablet getting caught in the crossfire. Number 1 agrees with those sentiments, and he instructs his teammates to return to their vehicle while he, Number 1, will try and take the tablet from the delightful children. So Number 1 activates his rocket jets on his boots to fly up to the Dragonfly vehicle, and once he enters the Dragonfly vehicle, he prepares to fight the delightful children. Number 1 thinks to himself about how he doesn't want to potentially or accidentally break the tablet, so he has to approach this in a different way. So Number 1 essentially jumps back and forth, which confuses the delightful children, and Number 1 takes advantage of their confusion by grabbing the tablet while they're confused, and he makes a run for it. While he makes a run for it, Number 1 contacts his teammates on one of his communicators, and he tells them that he's read the tablet, so he knows the code now. And Number 1 is about to read them the code, but he's stopped when the delightful children activate an obstacle on their Dragonfly vehicle, and this obstacle hits Number 1 in the face. While he's dazed, the delightful children activate a trap door to send Number 1 out of their Dragonfly vehicle, but they also activate a mechanical claw to catch the tablet so it doesn't fall out with Number 1. So Number 1 falls into the jungles of Rainbow Monkey Island, and his teammates are still trying to contact him, but Number 1 seems to have lost consciousness. 46 minutes pass, and we see the 4 other Sector V operatives are in a 2x4 technology vehicle called the Elefinder. Eventually, the 4 present Sector V operatives find Number 1's sunglasses and Number 1's clothes, but no Number 1. They don't know why Number 1 would take off his sunglasses and his clothes. Suddenly, a group of rainbow apes, yes, they don't look like the real rainbow monkeys, they look slightly different, or they do look to be different, and rainbow apes is the best way I can think to describe them. But in any case, rainbow apes appear, and they close in on the 4 present Sector V operatives. However, the rainbow apes are scared away by none other than Number 1, but Number 1 is now wearing an outfit made out of leaves, and he also has something on his head. It sort of looks like the rainbows on a stick that are on the heads of the rainbow monkeys. So yes, Number 1 has an equivalent to that now on his head. And Number 1 is acting, well, feral-minded. He's acting like a rainbow monkey, essentially. At first, Number 1 closes in on his teammates in a rather intimidating manner in his feral-minded state, but then he seems to, then he starts to act affectionate towards them. He jumps onto number 2 and begins to kiss number 2. And number 5 figures that they're going to need the help of the rest of the Kids Next Door organization to get number 1 out of his feral-minded state. So next up, we head to the Kids Next Door moon base. And on the moon base, we see number 1 is now in a cage, and he's jumping all around while he's in this cage, still in his feral-minded state. And number 86 is present with the 4 other Sector V operatives. And number 86 mentions that the rules say that every sector needs to have a leader, even if this is merely a temporary leader until the official leader returns to the position. So yes, number 86 tries to figure out who among the 4 non-feral-minded Sector V operatives will be the temporary leader until number 1 regains his non-feral-minded state. Number 4 immediately jumps at the chance of becoming the leader of Sector V, and he keeps trying to volunteer. But number 86 seems to be thinking number 5, or number 5 anticipates number 86 suggesting number 5, but number 5 comments that she has been the leader of Sector V at one point in the past, and she doesn't want to carry that burden again after an incident from the past. Number 86 acts rather sympathetic towards this. She seems to be very understanding of number 5's reluctance. So number 5 offers number 5 suggests that number 2 could be the temporary leader of Sector V, but number 2 says that sector leaders can't pilot the vehicles, the sector leaders can't pilot their own vehicle, so number 2 turns down the offer. So number 4 continues to try and encourage number 86 to pick him to be the temporary leader for Sector V, but ultimately number 86 decides to make number 3 the temporary leader for Sector V. Number 3 says that her first mission with her being the temporary leader is to return number 1 to his non-feral-minded state because he knows the code. And this catches number 86's attention. Yes, number 86 seems to be just as determined. Number 86 seems to be just as determined as number 3 to figure out what this code is. And so she orders the 3 Kids Next Door scientists that are present right now. The Kids Next Door scientists present are number 74.239, number 71.562, and number 275. Yes, she instructs those 3 Kids Next Door scientists to do whatever it takes to get number 1 out of his feral-minded state. So number 74.239 and number 71.562 are arguing with each other over whether or not element L will be able to help number 1. Number 74.239 fears that element L will backfire and cause number 1 to stay ape-ified. That's how they describe it in the segment. But number 71.562 thinks that element L's help will be better than them doing nothing at all. And eventually, number 3 insists that they have element L help out in some way. So yes, the scientists prepare a container that has element L written on it. But when the container opens up, we see that element L is really a code name for Lizzie, and Lizzie is wearing an outfit that I guess you could say it resembles a funeral outfit, and number 71.562 instructs Lizzie to really give lay it on thick, essentially. That's how he describes it, or something along those lines anyway. So Lizzie acts like she's mourning and how she wants number 1 the original number one back. Number one ends up breaking out of the cage he's in, and he begins to kiss Lizzie, and Lizzie actually decides that she prefers number one in his ape-ified state rather than his usual demeanor. And so number 74.239 and number 71.562 begin to argue with each other over how the plan backfired. And number two questions what's the big deal about this code anyway. And number 86 ends up revealing that this code or this tablet is part of a contest being held by the Rainbow Monkey Corporation. And whoever can, whoever can break the code will receive an award or a reward in the form of a keychain. And this snaps number one out of his ape-ified state. Yes, we hear number one yell out in a baffled manner that this was all about a keychain. So number one is back to his usual demeanor, and he starts to go on a rant about how the kids next door resources were being wasted over a keychain. But the rest of the four other Sector V operatives are happy to see that number one is back to his usual self, and they begin to hug him, glad to have their leader back in his usual demeanor. Lizzie is disappointed that number one is back to his usual demeanor, but she comments that number one's ape-ified state was great while it lasted. The next scene takes us to the mansion of the Delightful Children, and the Delightful Children hear the doorbell ring, and they think that this is the delivery for their keychain. But when they open up the door, they find number one there, and number one rhetorically questions if his friends can come into play. We see that the friends he's talking about are real rainbow monkeys, rainbow apes, and I think there's a rainbow chimp there too. But yes, all of these rainbow primates all chase after the Delightful Children into their mansion. And then we end the segment at the moon base where we see number 74.239 and number 71.562 continuing to argue with each other. Yes, that's how we end this segment. So there you go. This was the B segment for the Season 4 finale of Codename Kids Next Door. Like I've mentioned in previous Recap and Thoughts videos, Season 3 and Season 4 are the only seasons in Codename Kids Next Door where the season finales are not full episodes, but episodes divided into an A segment and a B segment. The heavy hitter episodes for Season 3 and Season 4 are not the season finales. But yes, we do have the, so we've now discussed the B segment. And although the B segment isn't the heavy hitter episode for Season 4, the B segment still introduced an important character, or a character who will go on to be important in the future. That character is number 74.239. And, for anyone who is curious, Dave Wittenberg voices number 74.239. Tom Warburton did mention in one of his blog posts, and I did mention this in a previous... Yes, in the Recap and Thoughts video for Operation Matador, I did mention that in one of his blog posts, Tom Warburton had mentioned that Dave Wittenberg's first role on the show was playing Ernest, who was essentially the main villain of that particular segment. And Tom Warburton and the other staff and crew members enjoyed Dave Wittenberg's performance while playing Ernest so much that they decided to have Dave Wittenberg return to play many other characters on the show. And number 74.239 is one of those characters. Number 74.239 may very well be Dave Wittenberg's most important role in the series, or number 74.239 is probably the most important character in the show that's played by Dave Wittenberg. And that will be made more clear later on. It won't be until, I think, as late as Season 6. Yes, as late as Season 6, that's when or that's when number 74.239's role becomes much more clear, or it becomes more clear about why number 74.239's role in the show is important in the grand scheme of the series itself, even though he didn't appear until roughly the later half of the series. And it's also funny that Lizzie appears in this segment, and she actually appears in the same scene that number 74.239 appears in. And I mention that because of certain revelations regarding Lizzie's true identity and the true identity of number 74.239. Yes, there's a little more. Yes, Lizzie's not the only character who had a true identity revealed years after the series ended. And I won't go into too much detail about that just yet, but you can rest assured that things will be made more clear once we reach the ending of the series. So keep that in the back of your mind. If you haven't seen the rest of the series, you're just following along with these recap and thoughts videos, just keep that in the back of your mind for the time being. So otherwise, the big details, I guess, for this segment are, number one, yes, I definitely thought it was funny how number one was snapped out of his feral-minded state by finding out that this whole tablet ordeal was really for really a petty reason, or it was just for a keychain. I thought that was pretty hilarious. It was like everything else they tried didn't work, but revealing the true reason behind this mission, that was enough to get number one back to his usual mind state. I thought that was pretty funny. And it does show how number one is the most dedicated, or yeah, you could say number one definitely takes his position in the Kids Next Door very seriously. He's very dedicated to the organization, and he doesn't think the organization should waste resources on something so minuscule, or yes, something as minuscule as a keychain quest was something that he didn't agree with. Otherwise, though, we did get to see a little other tidbits, like or actually the keychain revelation itself. They did foreshadow it in a rather clever manner looking back on this segment, because number 3 and number 86 were the Kids Next Door operatives that were the most determined to figure out the code. And when you take into account that number 3 and number 86 are big fans of rainbow monkeys, that actually does make sense in hindsight, or that's a pretty good clue about the true purpose of the tablet. And I do admit, I also thought it was pretty funny that the Delightful Children wanted a keychain. It shows us that the Delightful Children have moments of being not so above at all. Or yes, the Delightful Children like to act like they're superior to other kids, but this was an example of the Delightful Children being not so above at all, and I did think that was pretty funny. Now, I guess the other details are, this is the return of Rainbow Monkey Island. We saw it in Season 3 in Operation Hugs, and it first appeared in Season 1, Operation Rainbows. And yes, we got to see the real rainbow monkeys besides the Rainbow Monkey Kong from Operation Hugs. And we got to see some other rainbow primates, like the rainbow apes and it looked like there was a rainbow chimp at one point. Yes, a rainbow chimp at one point. And yes, I guess a detail I should mention is in Season 1, the real rainbow monkeys were constantly changing color, but in this segment, the real rainbow monkeys were just a single color, and they stayed that way throughout the course of the segment. So that could be considered an example of early installment weirdness. Maybe there was budget reasons for that. I'm not entirely sure. That's just me speculating. But otherwise, yes, I believe that's about it. So yeah, not too much else to talk about, but like I said, another important character does end up being revealed ends up appearing in this segment, and his appearance alongside Lizzie is pretty interesting considering their true identities. And otherwise, yes, I'd say that's it. So as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment for episode 52 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time.